Hello everyone, welcome to the 21st Century Human podcast, where we look at the tools and techniques that help us succeed in the 21st century. And I'm Lewis Richards, and joined my colleague Bob Barker, and we're here today with Nick Burton from Belron. So,
hi.
Do you want to say hello and introduce yourself and give us a quick synopsis of who you are?
Hi, good to be here. I'm Nick Burton. I'm the Chief Information and Digital Officer for Belron. People often haven't heard of Belron. It's not a brand in its own right, but we own Autoglass in the UK, Carglass across most of Europe, and Safelite in the US. So we're operating in 34 countries, and I'm responsible for the IT function, working with the different IT leaders and digital leaders across the group to help them think through how we're going to use technology to deliver, some great experiences for our customers and for our people.
And you've actually got digital in the job title as well.
I do,
yeah. And on the t-shirt
yes.
today.
And on the t-shirt.
It's Calm and Go Digital.
Digital t-shirt,
like
yeah. Indeed, yeah.
Feel slightly overdressed.
Yeah. So
often the way.
We always start the podcast off with a kind of like a bit of a recap of anything interesting from a technology or a trends point of view that we've seen maybe this week, this month, that kind of stuff as well. So have you got anything interesting that's caught your eye?
Well, it's been CES this week, so we've had one of our guys over there looking at what's been going on.
You send people to CES, that's cool.
We do. I went a couple of years ago. Amazing experience, exhausting. But just the breadth of things that you see. I think they say that with CES you have good years and off years.
Yeah,
sounds like this year was a classic.
It's the kind of first year Google were back this year.
Yeah, big Google presence with pushing the Google Assistant, which is cool. But AI seems to really be one of the massive themes. The Alexa or Google Home everywhere type approach. Really, I think
that's the thing I spotted. The two things I spotted from CES I thought were interesting were basically everybody kind of saying that kind of NVIDIA were the standout kind of win for the conference really is, and the fact that they've gone from being a GPU gaming company now where they're now providing most of the computation for AI in the cloud. But they're talking about pretty much of the 240 autonomous vehicle companies out there, pretty much every single person is now testing and driving and building chipsets off NVIDIA for doing those kind of things as well.
Yeah, indeed. And the AI guys that we've got working in our team and here at the group, absolutely would love to get one of those big NVIDIA machines.
I bet.
I think they want to play Quake on it.
I was going to say some kind of LAN party in the office, doing that kind of stuff.
Absolutely,
but I think the other thing I saw at CES was fascinating me as well. And funny enough, talking about optics and talking about glass anyway, was. We're starting to see that kind of second generation of AR kind of glass lens companies starting to come in. People like Vuzix were launching glasses which are a bit more akin to the kind of glasses you guys are wearing now, and this kind of light wave glass. So rather than a reflective screen you're projecting onto, it's actually more embedded within the glass as well. And I suppose hypothetically in the future we talk about autonomous and vehicles and stuff. That glass real estate that you kind of look after is kind of potentially going to be another AR context layer.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's probably two things for us. We've got lots of technicians. We've got over 13,000 technicians. Many of them out there on the roads, trying to solve people's problems with their glass, or they've damaged their vehicle. Getting technical information to them when they need help is really important. So glasses, for doing something as simple as having a video, conversation, video call with technical support back at base, quality managers that can help them would be great. But we've also been experimenting with overlaying augmented reality information, detecting what they're looking at, and
that whole context awareness.
Showing what's the next screw that you need to remove or whatever. So I think we're now reaching a point where the technology is going beyond being clunky. It's being, it's more streamlined. Exactly. I mean, you could do it. I was seeing it a couple of years ago, but it was just a bit too fiddly for the average person to pick up and quickly be able to use. I think that's really changing.
I think it's an interesting concept, because when we talk about digital skills and stuff, there's that difference between training like an engineer to do the technical task, but then having 20 years experience of doing the thing. And if you can bring those technical experts kind of over the shoulder almost, you can almost extend people's careers and the usability they have to the business as well, I suppose.
As long as we're providing the same focus on a really good experience for them as people, as our employees, as we've really, lots of companies are focused on the customer, and customer experience teams and so on. Not many have had people experience teams, and that's something that we're really starting to to grapple now, because it's all very well giving a technician some, a smartphone and saying manage your jobs and, increasingly use that as the hub for everything you do. Use glasses, use wearables, but actually if you're not thinking about the ergonomics, if you're not thinking about how it's going to fit with the way that they work, that's really it's really going to be a challenge for them. So,
it goes back in. I remember that when everybody remember like kind of the early 90s when we had field force enablement. I remember working with one company who deployed Panasonic tough books to everybody. And they were coming, and they came back with hammers put through them, and because they
always get viewed as a challenge.
Yeah, and it was the idea was when we said to them, well, had you put the tech in, but had you thought about the user experience for the end users? Had you made it simple, so it was just like one big green button to touch for next job or red button? No, it was like we give them Windows 95.
Yeah. Wasn't that where they put the nail through the laptop?
Yeah, but I think the solution was, they said for the next generation, they got rid of the tough books and put PCs, but they locked them in metal boxes in the van so that people couldn't literally destroy the computer. It's like, did anything about the actual user experience? No, it's Windows 97 now. It's just still expecting people to go start programs.
Well, you've got this beautiful device here, but it's enormous. If you give one of these to a technician, you can have a brilliant experience on the screen. But they don't know where to put it. Do I balance it on the roof? Do I put it on the seat? So we find that actually, a kind of large phone device, something that they can put into their pocket when they need to use their hands, which they often, of course, need to do quite a lot. But it's still big enough that a customer can, read what they need to be able to read, and so on. It's a good balance. Yeah. But,
I think that's where you're just going to start to see that extension between this form factor and that form factor probably being combined up properly. I imagine
maybe watches as well.
The screen thing,
that combination.
So Bob, anything else you've seen this week?
Well, the only thing is that New Year's, lots of people saying people are getting addicted to social media and all that. A lot of that in the news, and I think the answer there is just don't get addicted.
I don't be disciplined.
I actually we're not in control of it though, are we? It's the dopamine hits.
Well, actually, that's why I did that for the first week in January. I decided to have a news resolution what to do, so I actually had a complete week off social media. I decided I didn't need to delete all the apps off my phone, but I kind of turned off all notifications and I put them all into a folder and moved them onto like the 6th screen on my phone. And then basically had a complete cold turkey detox. It kicked me off actually because it was just before Christmas. There was those guys, a couple of ex-Facebook employees, early employees, who were basically berating the fact that they'd generated the +1 button and the like button and things like this, and they were railing against certain effects. And so I thought I'd try it. And I love Facebook, and I love all social, Facebook and Twitter. But I was actually really surprised that the first day I basically had my phone in my hand all the time, and I was that constant physical need to go and look for notifications and check. And that quickly got over it. But as the week progressed, I found that I didn't miss Facebook at all, but I actually missed Twitter. I found that I still allowed myself to read news sites like BBC News and things like that, but what I found was the quality and the speed of the information updates and the refreshes, because you get so used to, if you're good at Twitter, you get so used to the speed of it, and that's the bit I find, there's just so much information you can soak in if you want to, that I actually physically miss Twitter. I didn't miss Facebook, and I wrote that up at the end of the week, and I think a research director came back and said, does that mean you could probably just do away with Facebook at all? And I said, well, no, that wasn't the point for me. It was, I actually like Facebook and I find it really useful. It was just, I was more surprised that countering what the news reports for Christmas, I physically didn't miss it. So there was obviously something in there. I wasn't as addicted to Facebook as I thought I potentially might be, which is interesting.
I think turning off the notifications, it's just then down to you when you decide.
Yeah, when you choose to go and take a look. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Right. I mean, it's interesting that Facebook have also said they're going to change their news feed algorithm.
And their share price is taking a hit this week as well, because they've obviously...
there'll be less ads, there'll be less... which I don't think will be a bad thing for the user experience and for how useful it is.
No, I think getting out of that, it'll be one of those things that'll help people get out of their echo chamber slightly as well. I think it's been quite polarising over the last 12 months has been quite polarising around the kind of the stories you hear about.
Right, shall we go?
Right, cool, let's move on then. So the title is the 21st Century Human Podcast, and as regular viewers will know, or listeners will know, we've got a 21st Century Human capability model, which we break down into 7 sections. So kind of the interview is basically by going around the sections and getting a little bit of insight from you as to kind of, your tips and techniques that you do for those things as well. So the wheels, we always start off the wheel around the idea around sensing. So sensing and context. So you as a human and the job that you do as a human and an employee, how do you make sense of the data deluge? How do you keep on top of those feeds? Is there anything that you do particularly, or any techniques that you have, or
Yeah, look, for me it's a constant thing because it is changing so rapidly. So I'm using any bit of kind of downtime, dead time that I have. I travel quite a lot, so when I'm at a security queue or a check-in queue, when I'm waiting for a plane to take off, I'll be reading a whole variety of stuff. I like to constantly read. So, and it's blogs, it's things like Mashable and CNET, because particularly with what we do, often hardware developments, new products spark ideas and curiosity around how they work that leads to potential applications in the business. So it's
use an app
very organic.
To feed you that, or do you just go to the sites individually?
I'm using Apple News quite a lot. I've set up. I've been training it with the types of articles that I like. I mean, to be honest with you, CNET, the news, the news.com as it used to be, has got a really good digest. It's a really, and that will often then spark me to say, that's quite interesting. I'm going to go find out more about that. So I used to be a big Google Reader guy. I had a whole load of RSS set up, but when that went, you kind of. I kind of never found anything that really replaced it.
Do you have any kind of pattern for looking at the constant newsfeed, that deluge, and then sort of like triaging that stuff into like a digital brain or somewhere you keep things for research purposes?
I keep stuff in Evernote. Yeah, that's my kind of tagging. Evernote, absolutely. Yeah, so right. And Evernote is also my. Kind of everything that happens in my life goes into Evernote. I've got everything connected to it. My calendar, my social stuff. So it's my chronology of everything that I was thinking. So because sometimes I'll be in a situation where I'm like, I read something about that. It was when I was on the trip to the US, and I can go and search for the US, and then there it was. That's because it's how my brain works.
Do you ever find that you then share stuff from Evernote with other people in like your teams and stuff, or do you keep it very much locked down?
Share stuff from time to time, but Evernote will tend to be the repository. If I'm sharing it, normally it would be from whatever site it is directly. They've all got a share facility these days.
It's because we sometimes see that kind of the next stage of that is that kind of then that collaborative notebook piece where it becomes a small cadre of people communicating that.
I mean we definitely use the Google functionality to do that. I mean most of the stuff that we create. As a team, with my team and so on, we're doing it collaboratively.
So you're doing it in real time?
Yeah.
One of our other interviewers, Neil Pearce, he was a big fan of using that kind of real time. We used to come on our...
Yes, brilliant.
Came on our conference.
Yeah, came on our study tour as well, and he was taking notes on the actual study tour things. That's real time being fed into his management team and stuff, which is interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and if I'm at conferences and so on, it would be WhatsApp. I'm live WhatsApping pictures and what does it mean to me? What do I take out of it, or what do I want to follow up, and that's shared with my team or the other people at the conference. So because you've got the WhatsApp for the desktop now, it's a nice way of getting the images in to use in other whatever way you want to use it.
You can take them and spread them around and stuff.
Absolutely.
Cool. Fascinating.
Mm-hmm. So personal brand is our next one. So identity, sort of you're obviously on LinkedIn and things like that. How do you consciously think about that at all? What's your kind of strategy there?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I'm the leader of the IT and digital function, so that comes with a certain responsibility to evangelise about what technology can do and the kind of difference it can make for a business like ours. So, I think that's important, mostly for an internal audience. We're in 34 countries. We've got around 700 people working in IT. But we're all doing different things. We're very decentralised. So, actually the stuff that I share on things like LinkedIn will often spark conversations with, people in some of my different teams in the different countries. So that's important. I also think, Belron, it's not a name that if you heard it and you're an IT person, you would naturally go, oh yeah, that's a great place for an IT career. Although it is, in my opinion. So I think it's also part of raising the profile as to the great things that we're doing, the great work that's happening in our different countries to help them, build great teams to do great things.
Do you use the PR and marketing machine occasionally to help you do that? Or
a little bit, but no, it's mostly an organic thing. Right. It's mostly something that I'm quite passionate about. Right. And we'll use things like Drive, which is our startup accelerator, as a way of talking about some of the big themes that we're focusing on, this year AI is a big theme.
Yeah.
We've been moving into new services, body damage repair services in a number of countries, and so that's one of the categories that we focus on. It gives us an opportunity to talk about the types of technologies that could make a difference as we expand the business into those new areas.
And lots of firms have kind of over the years have developed like a social media policy almost for their staff or their individuals, kind of like sometimes they're kind of the do's and do nots type of thing. So do you get a sense of how much your guys embrace that kind of personal responsibility for being themselves and being ambassadors for the brand as well? Do they?
Yeah,
is it left up to them to kind of develop that skill set as well?
There is some support. So we also have a policy, but it's not. Belron doesn't really do policies to enforce. It's more to educate and to inform and guide. Yeah. Right. So we talk about being authentic. We talk about being clear about who you're representing when you're talking on social media. Showing respect for others and so on. So there's a kind of underlying set of values that drives the way that we engage. It's very consistent with how we operate internally. Cool.
And the only other thing on brand we talk about a little bit, because it's tied to sensing so much as well, is often it's very much just used as a push mechanism to broadcast, and we're really interested in the fact that finding people who use it as a research tool as well, because there's lots of information out there in Facebook groups and Twitter and that kind of stuff as well. Do you guys hook into research from there at all? Or is it really
one of my sources would be the kind of LinkedIn groups in particular. I find some of those, but they're mixed, but some of them are really good in terms of the type of conversations going on. I think embrace that type of stuff.
Because there's definitely different skills, isn't there, in terms of staying on top of LinkedIn groups versus mining Twitter versus Facebook groups. They're kind of different ecosystems, really. Not really social. It's not all one size fits all, is it? Really?
No, very true.
And do you have a time when you look at your social? Do you say, okay, I'm going to do half an hour in the morning, or is it just when you?
No, it's quite ad hoc. It's when I've got the time,
travel time.
Yeah, it's time when time that would be difficult to be productive doing other things.
So net time.
Yeah, because it's
no extra time.
You can just do it on your phone.
Wherever
you are.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so those two are kind of our sensing and brand. Then the next two are kind of linked together as well. So we have tools and abilities and productivity. So this type of productivity. So from a tools and abilities point of view, we're really interested in kind of like what's your personal ecosystem of tooling that you use, both physical and software, and any kind of lessons or things that you think have been particularly productive or useful inside of work, that kind of stuff. So what's your go-to tools, that kind of stuff? What do you use?
Yeah, well, I mean, from a personal hardware point of view, it's pretty much all Apple. So I was never an Apple person to begin with, but then I got an iPhone back in 2008. And it kind of started from there. So what were you before? I was a Palm.
Palm, okay.
Yeah, Palm. Nice. The Trio and the Palm, and
I think
I've still got my Palm 5.
I was going to say there's a bloke drawer thing at home. Everybody's got an own Palm Pilot.
I had the very first Palm, the grey plastic one, the square one, the rectangle, which was great.
Yeah.
But,
that was one of the funny things that came out of CES last week. I saw someone's actually they've developed like an Android tablet again, which has got the little haptic keyboard on it, and it just looks like all of the old early 90s
Scion things.
Scion devices. It just looks like a Scion device. Absolutely looks like a Scion device.
So I had the Trio. I mean, I did have a Nokia in the day, which of course everyone will have had. But once I got onto the Apple, once I kind of got hooked into that ecosystem, it's just so easy. So I've now, the number of Apple devices we have is crazy.
Is it the household? Is it kind of Apple based as well?
Yeah, we've got Macs, we've got 3 or 4 iPads, we've got Apple TVs everywhere, we've got Apple Watches, and I just like the way it's quite seamless. But I also like that they've been opening it up so that actually people like Google can deliver really good services now through iOS. Microsoft, really embraced the platform.
Set, I think.
It's one of the things that's been quite. A few years ago I was quite negative on Microsoft because they were so closed. It was kind of take all of our stuff or we don't want to know. And so actually what they've done with 365 and the really good apps actually for the iPad. And the iPhone.
365 is the infrastructure you use here.
No, we have free choice in the different countries. So most of our countries use 365, but we've got about 8 countries that use Google G Suite. So. Because we don't, we're quite agnostic.
Yeah, sure.
Whatever works for you. And
Do you have a standard on email though, or is it? Do they use Gmail and then you guys use Outlook?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, indeed.
So it's federated domain, so it's all kind of the company names, I suppose.
Each company has their own email address. Autoglass.co.uk in the UK and Carglass.fr in France and so on. So they're all. There's no real good reason to bring them together. No. Yeah.
Have you ever had any situations where you've had that kind of transition between the platforms, so where when companies decide go from Gmail or go from Google Docs to Microsoft, or the other way around, or experienced that, or we've only just fixed in where they are with the stuff?
We've only moved from on-prem Exchange type environments to whichever. Okay. Yeah. So we haven't shifted between clouds as yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
And does that? How does that work with? Do you have obviously the knowledge production software? That's standard there. What about collaboration technologies in terms of how they talk off desktop and stuff?
So we're seeing, increased use of things like Slack, things like WhatsApp.
Don't use
Slack's
Teams
great.
yet? You haven't tried Teams?
Yeah, some of the countries using Teams.
Yeah,
absolutely. Which is a good product. I mean, Microsoft has done some great stuff in 365. To be fair, things like Flow and stuff as well. Really good.
It's a funny one actually, because we're always interested to talk to people who've gone for both paradigms with Google Docs or Google Apps and Microsoft, because we sometimes find that the transition from on-prem Office to 365 actually has a decrease in productivity, because some people struggle with the concept of a desktop PowerPoint and a cloud PowerPoint and a desktop Outlook and a cloud PowerPoint, whereas we tend to find people who use Google Apps first and foremost, because Chrome is the one app used for everything, and it's much more cut down. People tend to learn the skills of collaborating in real time online faster in Gmail than we do in Microsoft sometimes.
Yeah, I think it varies by person. Yeah. Look, I think when we moved from using Outlook and so on to Google Apps as it was then, for some people it was quite jarring. It was just so different. So everybody goes through their own change curve. You give as much support as you can, but some people will take longer.
And what is that support like? I mean, do you have people that help you not only sort of install the software, but also
like Genius Bar type
help?
Yes, absolutely. We had people walking the floors, and then for the people who needed more help over time, we would run specific sessions, one-to-one type stuff. Genius Bar but we'd come to them rather than coming to us.
Have you found we were fascinated by Microsoft as well, because I've never been the biggest fanboy of theirs, but I'm actually. I think what they're doing with 365 is really good. And
absolutely.
The thing we find interesting when we talk to IT departments often is that some of the newer, cooler functionality we think adds value is technically sometimes a standard that gets turned off. So things like Delve potentially, and some of these new things like Sway and these different ways of
people don't know what they are.
Yeah, well that's bridging that gap's really it's a hard challenge.
Totally, Yeah, and I think with 365 there's quite a bit of overlap between some of the products as well. Yeah. So you could use Teams, but you could also do some of that stuff in Yammer or some of that stuff in SharePoint. So kind of knowing which tool to use when and giving guidance around that so that teams can embrace the right tool and be really effective is important.
We sometimes find that you fall back otherwise, don't you? Because it's too much, and you just fall back on using Outlook and the Office attachment type of thing.
But you've got experts in that area on what people should use and how they should use it, and
in some of the bigger countries we do. Yeah.
And so for your own, I think, were you one of the people that was using X.AI or experimenting with it? Was that?
I've been using X.AI, yeah, absolutely.
And are you using it for everything or just for some things when you're setting X.AI is
it's a nice segue into the next block, which is productivity, really.
So X.AI is a AI personal assistant that arranges your meetings for you. So
Amy or Andrew.
Amy or Andrew. So I use Amy. Amy Ingram, and it's improving all the time. It's not perfect. It sometimes gets kind of almost stuck in a loop, where she's not quite twigging into what people are saying, particularly when you've got people from multiple different countries, different languages. Well, it's all in English, but English isn't their first language. So you do need to keep an eye on it still. And it's quite jarring for people. I've got a PA. When I said I'm going to try this thing called Amy, who's going to organise meetings, it kind of freaks you out.
It was a funny one, because we I think before, it's like there's all that stuff in the press about like, you know, automation is going to come and take over these jobs.
Yeah.
But I always think of that, if you augment humans, like if you've got a PA who's a really good PA, do you want that PA spending all the time doing the mundane organising calendar, or do you actually doing actual stuff to help augment what you're doing as a job? So give the AI to the PA.
It's the change curve thing again. The immediate reaction is, oh, that sounds bad.
Yeah.
So, but you know, when you look at, I mean, one of the areas that we're really focused on is AI to support self-serve through the call centres.
Sure.
Yeah, so
like first-line chatbot support and things like that.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, everyone talks about chatbots and, you know, says, okay, let's do stuff with Facebook Messenger and so on. That's great, but I don't think that people necessarily naturally want to go and type.
Well, this is the funny thing, we talk about this all the time, because it's like there's 50,000, 60,000 chatbots inside Facebook Messenger. Everywhere I go, I ask people, do you actually use one? No. I mean, so it's the human problem there. We as humans aren't ready to use it, as opposed to the technology.
Where I think they are helpful is, you know, I bought something online recently and it gave me the option to connect my Facebook Messenger, and all of the notifications they sent me about, you know, your product's being shipped, here's the tracking of it. Everything was in one thread. Yeah. So actually, it was really nice to be able to go back and scroll through and see what had happened when I had questions and so on. So that can move into a chat type interaction, but even without chatting, it was helpful. But you know, I mean, for us, we've still got, you know, getting on for 55-60% of our customers contact us through the phone. And so, you know, things like Amazon Connect with Lex to be able to direct calls better. Based upon whatever it is they're asking them, what they need help with when they call, capture information, the standard stuff we need to capture, so that we can then, you know, pass off to an agent handling that call more efficiently.
Yeah, it's amazing how much that kind of IVR marketplace can be disintermediated.
Yeah, using time that they might have just been queuing while waiting for the phone to be answered more productively. It's good for them. It's good for us. And you know, the Lex stuff. In fact, all of the voice AI engines are now really so good that you can rely on what it's capturing from what people are saying.
And it's a key one actually from that, because when we talk about productivity, we're really interested in looking at the individual's skills with hyper productivity. You know, what can you data chain together in these Lego bricks? But that example there, I suppose, is something that, from a business point of view, it's actually so cost effective to experiment now, because you're paying cents on the stuff with Amazon to do that, or Microsoft to do those kind of things.
It's really accessible.
It's really accessible, isn't it, if you do those kind of things?
Totally.
When you're just on the organisation, and that's something to take over your diary. How do you plan your weeks or your months? Are you having a conscious time when you're sitting down and thinking, right, okay, this is what I'm going to try and achieve this week? Or
it kind of goes in waves through the year. So there are times, you know, like, you know, sort of August, September time is more thinking about plans for the following year. That's when our countries are often doing their own budgeting, so they're quite, you know, internally focused and getting their head around things. You know, other times of year I'm doing a lot more travel, and that's really driven by need in the different countries. There's this kind of ebb and flow of activity,
and that's all managed through a standard calendar and all that sort of stuff.
Sure, absolutely.
Do you get a sense for that your staff and the people in the business are starting to experiment with things like IFTTT or Flow, or that, you know, that personal ability to maybe build their own?
I see more and more of it. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I use IFTTT that a lot. I'm probably over 40 recipes, something like that. Big skew towards the home automation stuff. Probably about 60% in that space. But, you know, also little things like, you know, when I arrive here at the office, the geofence detects that, and it pops a thing in my Google Calendar so that anybody in my team knows that I'm on site, because often I might go straight into a meeting room. So little things like that are just really handy. It's it's not for me, it's for them.
I think we're finding often it's almost like there's as much value almost in the practice of attempting to build the recipes as there is in finding ones that actually have utility. It's that kind of new skill set, almost that new kind of Lego brick thing.
And it's, you know, keeping on top of what channels are now connected and so on. I mean, it's
amazing,
so fast the way that's growing, which is pretty cool. But
so collaboration, I think we've talked about some of that. So you're seeing people use WhatsApp and stuff as well. So choice of email make a phone call, collaboration. People are adopting.
We tend to phrase collaboration up as well. Often we find that's kind of like the white elephant in the IT room almost, where people try and IT their way out of a collaboration solution. We're not particularly interested in the hardware part of it. We're more interested in the kind of like the meta level skill of collaboration, sort of like the psychological. It's like like if you introduce WhatsApp, what's the psychology of understanding how all the different people in the teams work, that kind of thing as well.
My view is you shouldn't try and be too prescriptive. You should talk about the type of capability that different classes of tools can bring you, and then let the teams find what's going to work best for them, for their specific context. If you take agile teams, there's a whole plethora of different agile tools, and actually, I'm fairly agnostic if they find that Trello is better for them, or Pivotal, or actually as long as they're managing it well, and they're clear on what their backlog is and what they're doing and so on. Actually, I don't
outcome driven then. Do you find teams kind of self-agree then? They pick a tool for a particular task or for a project?
Well, I think you want to create a culture in those teams where they can challenge each other as to if they think there's something better. Let's try
that.
And it's a rapidly moving space, like all technology.
I think we've seen that echoed with not everywhere, but a couple of really good teams do that kind of thing. They kind of decide at the start of a project, they agree themselves, right? We're going to use this, but once they agree, they kind of stick to that's what we're going to use for that project. And
indeed,
everybody's bought into it. Then it's kind of a consensus view of how to use collaboration.
So qualified self tracking.
Leadership first. Leadership first. But I think you obviously you live and breathe the leadership thing for intensity. Do you the leadership thing for us as well a little bit, or when we try and ask people about is that difference between the edict from the top about go and be digital, and actually walk in the talk. And so you obviously the epitome of the 21st century human. That case, how do you if you think about your direct line down though from you, right? So obviously if you're really good at this stuff or you're constantly learning. Is there anything particular that you do around encouraging your kind of next line reports so they kind of evidence that as leaders in the business as well, or the country leaders, so that everybody's kind of been brought up to what you class as a baseline standard?
Well, for me, it's about creating the right sort of culture. Because if I just kind of said, look, we need to be innovative. Thou shalt. Thou shalt become more digital in the way that you think about and approach problems and opportunities. That's just not very helpful.
No.
So I think doing things that help people to develop their curiosity, because actually, if you think about it, curiosity, giving people the space, giving people the ability to understand why things are, how they are, why things work, how they work, and so on, is often what will lead to ideas, which leads to innovation, in thinking and the things that we do. So I'm really trying to create a culture of openness, of the ability to experiment and have failure be valued. As long as we're taking the learning out of it and making that accessible. It's those types of things that really underpin.
And do you find that then in any kind of IT bit or any kind of business really where there's an element of outsourcing involved or vendor supply, that kind of stuff? I mean, there's obviously then an inherent frustration factor sometimes with the way that if you develop that as a skill set internally, then coping mechanisms with dealing with people who provide you services is quite a challenge as leaders to deal with as well, isn't it? Because maybe not everybody runs quite as fast or as innovative as you want them to be, I suppose.
And look, I think we of course we all need to use third parties for various different things. I mean, we just talked a lot about Office 365 using Microsoft as a third party to deliver our email and collaboration service. But there are different types of third party that you use in different situations. My personal view is that you should always retain the accountability for what's happening, and then you're choosing when does it make sense to augment the team or the activity with essentially people from outside, and be really flexible about how you do that. So I think the traditional outsourcing model where you kind of say I'm going to take a whole pile of end-to-end service and give it to somebody and have a load of SLAs and stuff that we use to measure, that's not a very helpful way of doing it, particularly in this age where we need to be really, really agile, really flexible. We don't know what the next 5 years is going to look like. So how can we codify that in a contract and a...
I'm really fascinated as well, because we obviously go and visit lots of... On Study Tour, we go and visit some of these companies as well. I'm always fascinated to look at the dynamic between like a vendor relationship, like a Microsoft or a Google, who provide a service, and you pay a lot of money to them for the service, and it's that tension point between you guys, or you as the consumer of that service, being so skilled at using their product that you recognise that they're maybe not providing you with the right level of training or expertise. And I often find that that's a gap almost, where you've got to know enough to go and demand that you're saying, look, that's not enough training and expertise of that. And it's obviously different in different software products.
No,
and stuff
sure.
as well,
but I think, you know, often companies like us, we're probably a little bit too timid around asking.
That confidence.
And often if you go and say, hey, I'm not sure about this. I think we could be getting more. I think we could be using that differently. I think, actually, you'll generally find that they're really open to say, actually, you could do this, or you could use it for that, or why don't we get someone to come in and spend a couple of days, helping you understand that part of our product set. Yeah, because at the end of the day, they're incentivized to want you to use it more.
Services.
I
think it's key that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so and the last part of the model,
health.
Health and
lifestyle and well-being.
You're
using your.
I've got an Apple Watch.
So you counting steps, or you?
I am, and standing up and stuff, and it tells me to breathe every now and again.
And are you monitoring things like sleep and all that kind of stuff, or you?
Yeah, I have. Well, I have monitored things like sleep in the past. I haven't found that too useful. It's good when I'm travelling. So keeping tabs on how bad's the jet lag and so on. I want to get one of these. There's a new device from a French company. It was a Kickstarter thing that does a blue light that helps you sleep. So I need to get one of those.
Try that.
Getting sleep patterns back into normal when I've been. Sometimes I go from Australia to Europe to the US within a couple of weeks. So you're kind of all over the place. So I'm quite interested in those types of things.
And have you done any meditation or mindfulness or anything like that?
No, I'm not big on meditation.
It's the big thing at the moment.
No.
Okay.
It's a funny one for qualification as well, because it's like we find this is almost a bit of a journey as well. People start off with that kind of the basic habit forming thing of step counting and the motivation factor. Then you might use that data then and link it up to like life insurance product, because there's lots of those kind of things. So there's a monetary value from that, and then or there's something like sweat coin that you generate value simply by moving around. It's quite an interesting thing as well. But we're increasingly seeing that next level up from that though is actually quantifying the work patterns as well. So things like Microsoft, for instance, it depends what tier you're on.
They
with analytics. You can spend analyse how much email, because we always find that question set when you ask people, do you spend too much time on email? Everybody goes yes, and you say, well, how much time do you spend? And no one knows. So it's that kind of that dashboard of everything about digital is not just health.
I looked at those stats the other day. It was 7.5 hours last week on email.
It's like it's an entire working day, literally just shifting.
I've told myself off.
But that's where changing your habits around what tools you're using. Things like Slack and WhatsApp and so on.
And do you,
they're immediate. So
you mentioned obviously like you're into home automation and stuff. From a family point of view as well, that kind of stuff. From IT devices and the home and that kind of stuff. You're pretty much. Kitted out with gear, I imagine.
Pretty much, No, we just actually I just implemented the Google Wi-Fi with the mesh thing, which is great. It is. It is a lot better. You don't get the dropouts when you move between different parts of the house. And so
seriously, into that menu host, I think it sucks.
It is good. But and it also tells you how many devices you have. And how many are active, and which ones are using bandwidth and stuff like that. So I'm now getting a bit of stats on this, and I've got generally between 40 and 50 active devices in the house at any one time.
But that's crazy. The fact that you know it, but I mean, how many people have no idea about how many things are connected to their network or never log? People just don't. Who logs onto their router and looks to the
but it's a nice app now, and it gives me alerts and stuff. I like the if this and that integration. So. You can tie things like kids' homework. Have they completed their tasks in a particular folder in Trello? Drives. Yes, it's now unlocked their Wi-Fi. So
Epic, love it.
They can go watch YouTube or whatever. So,
do another interview with you at your home.
So
I like the way that the Google Wi-Fi groups of devices. So it's not just I'm going to turn off the iPad. It's the iPad and the phone and the Mac. That they use,
It's a funny thing, though. I mean, we're laughing and joking, but I mean, increasingly, if you're a parent or kids these days, I mean, that's something else to be aware of. And who teaches the parents those digital skills to do that kind of stuff? It's very, Yeah.
People need boundaries, and kids need boundaries. So if you've got
Yeah.
that, and you can do it on Wi-Fi as well, that's a great idea.
Yeah, that's fab.
Yeah. Right,
Cool. Right, so that was a really good
Okay.
rumour. So we got a quick fire round now. So it's top secret, and you can say you can pick one of the answers, or give us both, or you can give us an opportunity as well. So, Apple or Android?
Apple.
We've established that one. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
Star Wars. You see, we have a big bugbear where you're more geeky for a Trekkie than you are with the Star Wars. But Star Wars, that's cool. LinkedIn or Twitter?
Probably LinkedIn.
Okay, interesting. 365 or Google Apps?
Google Apps for
Google
me.
Apps for you personally. WhatsApp or Slack?
WhatsApp.
Okay. Dropbox or SharePoint?
Dropbox.
Yeah, I think no one's ever said SharePoint yet.
No, people never approach SharePoint with joy.
Well, I think it's what we are finding. People use Teams, and actually it's a usable front end to share.
That's
a third option.
That's a good answer.
Third option to update our list.
Formed answer.
Yeah. So VR or AR?
AR.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Fitbit or Apple Watch? I think we've
Apple Watch,
that kind of stuff. Podcasts or YouTube?
YouTube.
So you're much more visual. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
iTunes or Spotify?
Spotify.
That's okay. Now this is an interesting dynamic when we talk to people who are all in on Apple. All in on Apple. You get the people who are all in on Apple, but then consistently go and buy albums off iTunes versus streaming.
Yeah, I used to use the iTunes Match thing as well. But I've stopped all of that now. I'm just on Spotify, and it's because of the way that it works across all of my devices. Yeah. So it's my Alexa speakers. Yeah. I've got the Hios from Denon that like in the ceiling and stuff. It's all completely seamless. I just open Spotify on anything and it just can make whatever music appear on whatever speakers I want.
Fab.
So that's good.
Black cabs or Uber or another?
Uber.
Okay, cool. Amazon or eBay?
Amazon.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. We've only had one person who said eBay, actually, to be honest.
I mean, eBay's great for more hard to find things, or selling little small weird things. That's I need a little gadget for this, something or a connector for that, or something. Okay. But
Okay, so our final section then is Desert Island apps.
Yes.
And stolen off Radio 4. And so basically, what are the top 3 apps you couldn't live without? And we give you a standard. You get your phone, and you get your email, and you get maps. So what are the other 3 apps that you couldn't live without on your mobile phone?
So I'm going to make some assumptions about this desert island.
Okay, go on.
Okay. It's always good to have
caveats. We like caveats.
So I'm going to assume that 2 shipping containers were washed up with me.
Right on.
Yeah, and one of them was full of smart home type gadgets that I can use to automate things.
Yeah. When coconuts fall from the tree and motion sensors. And
that it will catch them and automatically remove the milk or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Because if I'm on a desert island, I want to be able to enjoy it and not have to work too hard at the surviving.
So you're going to be like
crabs and coconuts.
Digital Robinson Crusoe, and you have digital Man Friday.
And maybe one of those new Amazon cameras that can detect ships on the horizon and automatically set lights flashing and stuff like that. So therefore, if this and that.
So if this and that, that's your one app, then so you can coordinate
one of the apps. Would be absolutely key. Yeah. And assuming that the other shipping container was a nice delivery of wines from Virgin Wines from Australia or something, then I'd need Vivino to, while I'm enjoying my desert island beach with all the automation, passing the time, trying a few nice Shiraz and so on, that I can leave a nice legacy of information around
how you enjoy
around how well I enjoy the different wines. Vivino's a great app, with the machine recognition, and I think assuming that there's also a nice 5G connection on this desert island,
ultra fast. We'll give you that.
WhatsApp, because basically I can keep in touch with anybody from there and not feel too lonely and end up talking to a football. So
excellent.
That would be my 3.
Yeah. So the final section is about policies. We call it the digital decision. Do you want to explain, Bob, a bit about
Yeah, so I suppose it's like you clearly in the role that you're in, you're into this whole area anyway. Yeah. But you're making a conscious decision to take responsibility for, putting digital in the home, keeping yourself up to date. What's the thing that goes to your head? What drives you to do it?
Drives me.
Yeah. Is there a?
Yeah. So I think my personal purpose is to help people navigate change, particularly around technology. Yeah, so I get a real buzz out of explaining how something can work and how it can help somebody in a particular situation. So whether it's conversations with friends, over dinner or down the pub, whether it's in the work context, that gives me real satisfaction. And to be able to do that, it creates this hunger for understanding. What is out there, how does it work, why does it do what it does, what could it be used for, and so on. So it really goes to the core of my own purpose. I'm very fortunate that my purpose is really well aligned with the role. With
a few people have had that same kind of sort of psychological profile almost way, don't you? Have you always been that way since you were like all the way through? Back with kind of more analogy technology, you've always wondered how stuff works and how you could use it and adapt it for different ways since that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the earliest memories of kind of technology stuff I have was me and a friend who used to live across the road. I guess when I was about 8. Using one of those 160-in-1 electronics kit to build a radio transmitter to transmit the sound of a Spectrum game from one house to the other, so we didn't have to run a tape over if we wanted to play a game.
That's pretty
super geeky.
That's pretty good though.
And it kind of worked.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It worked. So on that bombshell, that note, probably. That's been really
fascinating.
Really
another episode of the 21st Century Human podcast, and see us next month on the same Bat channel for another episode. And thanks ever so much, Nick.
Very good.
It's been fantastic.
No worries.
Cheers.
Absolutely.
Thanks everyone. Bye. Cheers.
Bye.